already know. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tell the Truth, episode 14. Yours truly, D-Mac, DG, CJ. The crew is back. Uh, Coming off of a Week 17 win for the Kansas City Chiefs, clinching their eighth straight AFC West title. The most AFC West championships of any franchise now belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs with 16. Um, yeah, the second longest streak of a division title for an individual team as well. It is extended. Shout out to the Chiefs, man. They got the job done. Sent the Bengals home officially for the second straight season and ended their season before the
Enjoy
playoff time
Cancun.
Bye bye.
with a lot of talk, some chippiness throughout the game, which I love to see personally. I think that this is, it might be, well, I shouldn't say that. I think that it's the only non-divisional rivalry because I don't think that that really exists outside of anywhere else between these two teams right now, and I love that. I love the chippiness. I love the talk. I think it makes sports fun. It's a lot of fun, and I think that's the great thing about it. So again, shout out to the Chiefs to be able to get it done. A strong defensive performance, a consistent, if not lacking at times, offensive performance. But you can't say consistent. They were pretty consistent. Not though without its mistakes as well, unfortunately, as has been the story of this season as well. So yeah, I mean, we'll start out as far as your overall thoughts specifically about the offense. I mean, team go out there. Harrison Bucker, season high, career high, 6 field goals, obviously. The one touchdown drive as well, and the scripted opening 15 play script, which looked very nice. You got to give credit. A lot of play action, a lot of stuff of that nature, getting on the center downhill runs. So we saw continue throughout the game. So, what are you guys' thoughts? CJ's go ahead and start this off.
The offense kind of, like we said, the last 3-4 weeks of the season, they kind of leaned into our identity, which is a power running football team, and we did that. So anytime we see Pacheco get 20 plus touches, we've been saying that ever since the Miami Dolphins game. Whenever he gets 15 plus touches, we're essentially at that point we would have been 9-0. But whenever he touches the ball 15 plus times, this offense is very, very hard to stop. And obviously the passing game hasn't been where we would have liked it to be compared to last year. But obviously when you lean into your identity, like DG said, just commit to who you are. And that's just a running football team that leans on your defense and just take the points when you can get them. And obviously we want to score more than obviously the touchdown that we did. But if us kicking 6 field goals mean the other team is not touching the ball and they're not really crossing the 50 on us too much, then that's a recipe for success. So I love to see, obviously, Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith had a bounce back game. I think we all could agree they had a terrible game last week versus the Raiders. So to see them come at home on their home turf and obviously have a team that's coming in talking a little bit of trash and take advantage of their opportunities. No DJ Reader was on the field for the Bengals, so this was a matchup where they dominated up front and they did that. So to execute the run game, Pacheco had over 100 yards total offense. That was great to see. So I just love to see the offense, just like we said. It's going to be ugly. And Chiefs Kingdom, a lot of people aren't going to like it because it doesn't look pretty, but this is the best way for you to win football games. And if we have to run the ball 25 plus times, even 30 plus times, the hell, so be it. If that's the way we get first downs and keep the clock moving, keep our defense on the bench, let them rest and let them get back on the field. And teams don't score 20 on this defense or even 21 for that matter. So I'm just glad the team finally embraced who they are. And I know D-Mac don't want to hear it, but, bro, we take our 3 points, we take our 3 points. If that's the way we got to keep it going, then, hey, so be it.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
DG.
You're a smart man, Andy.
You finally figured it out.
You figured I can't get anything past you. You
What they say?
nah. Man, I finally feel like they decided to establish an identity and basically just say, you know what, in this game we're the more physical team. And that's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be a more physical team up front. We're gonna run the ball. We're gonna take care of the ball. We're gonna rely on our defense. We'll take our points where we can get them, and let the defense do its job. And then once they got a lead or whatever, you seen what this defense can do. Once you give them a lead and put them ahead, and now force an opposing offense to have to drive the length of the field against them or whatever, and that defensive line gets an opportunity to go hunt after that. So it's a little rocky, defensively there for a little bit until defense kind of adjusted or whatever and got their feet underneath them. But the offense, as far as I'm concerned, was they weren't great, but they were good, and they moved the ball effectively. got in field goal range plenty of times. I think they scored on 7 out of 10 drives or whatever, something they haven't done consistently this year or whatever. So I'm proud of what they were able to put on the field. I'm just glad they finally decided to establish doing something that they're actually very good at, which is running the ball. And just pounding the rock, man. Like, it's simple. It's like, don't make it too hard. Don't make it too difficult on yourselves. Take your shots when you can, and just be the more physical team at this point. You can win ball games like that. So,
And if we're being honest, like I know we're not allowed to speak his name, like his name is forever banned. But if number 11, I'm not gonna say his name, y'all know who he is. He's number 1 on the field and
the
probably number 1 in
terrorist.
the terrorist, number 1 in your hearts, right? If he catches that ball, he scores a touchdown. So instead of finishing with 25 points, DG, we finished with 29, which is basically 30 if we're rounding up. So overall, I think the offense had a good day. They moved the ball consistently, ran the ball when they needed to, short yardage for that matter. I love to see what they did on offense. So yeah, overall, good day. Could have been better, but good day overall.
Right.
Chuck, we don't say his name.
Yeah.
We call him number 11 now. We don't say his name. Not allowed to speak his name. Bro, y'all should have. I was with Chuck watching the game. I ain't never seen him slap the table so hard. I thought he broke it. Chuck was like, "Get this bum off my team." Chuck was going crazy, bro.
I would love to know the spell that we would need to cast to actually have him removed, sort of like Voldemort as well, if that was possible. But otherwise, until
He
then,
gone.
this this is what we will continue to deal with. Look, you mentioned obviously a little bit of my disdain for the reality of the situation. I think that ultimately Eddie Reed did the smart thing as far as those fourth down decisions. I didn't think he should have been aggressive and gone after for some of those. It was clear pretty much that field goals were the way to win this game. It's going to be a question mark of if you can get that to change as far as the playoffs, because you're going to have to score touchdowns. Even though you move the ball well, even though that you found a little bit of an identity from being able to run the ball on a consistent basis and then use the play action off of that. Even though that you had some deep pass hookups, obviously the longest pass of the season by any against the Chiefs wide receiver was completed to Rashee Rice on a good route adjustment by him.
He did what down the field, D-Bag? What did he do down the field? You said he did what?
Ooh, my bad.
Excuse me.
He,
No chair this time.
no. The chair has its all. The chair
Oh
has
yeah,
all
we're ready. We're ready now, people. Yeah,
no issues.
we got upgrades.
I prefer
Country
the
send that
situation.
check.
Yeah, country got us a new chair. You see my boy chair?
country,
Yeah.
country sent the check and I spent it on the screws. Rashee Rice down the field actually got used like the explosive wide receiver he is,
Oh
which
wow,
is nice.
DG, I know he could do that. They told me he couldn't run.
Now, of course, we learned after the game because he said that it was his own route adjustment, that it wasn't necessarily actually getting used that way. He decided to take advantage of the blown coverage. So he's learning to sometimes just not trust what the play called, because you can do more than what the play is called. So good thing to see him and Mahomes hook up down the field. We also saw Watson catch a deep pass as well. We saw the drop to MVS obviously down the field, and then that was a drop. He unnecessarily dove when he could have just kept running and then caught the ball. It is what it is. It's a reality situation. But yeah, so you're gonna have to punch the ball in. You're just going to. But for at least what you saw this week, they were able to, like the scroll says, matriculating the ball down the field. Shout out to Hakestram. I believe it is his birthday today.
Matriculating the ball down the field, Wallace.
Exactly. The legendary Chiefs head coach. So I'm not upset by the performance, but it did leave me wanting more, because I know that they'll need more ultimately to win. Along the the
Why I got to be all that, Pop? That's crazy.
along the MVS lines. I mean, do you think that this team can afford to be giving MVS 50% of the snaps when it comes to playoff time?
Hell no.
We knew this answer weeks ago. This ain't
Hell
nothing new. Like
no.
But at this point, like, I agree his snaps need to be cut. I want him off the field just like everyone else does. But Andy's not going to play Justin Ross, bro. As much as I would love to see number 8 get all of his snaps, I've been saying that for weeks. I'll live with the rookie mistakes of not knowing, because if him making a mistake, when he does get the ball thrown to him, fellas, I know he's going to catch it. He may make a mistake of not knowing where to go, and obviously MVS will run a route, but he's not necessarily going to catch the ball. So I would prefer Justin Ross to get all of the snaps for number 11, but we know he's going to be out on the field, because right now all we have is KT's going to play this week, Justin Ross is going to play this week. Obviously, Sky's on IR, and then Rashid's going to get his snaps. Justin Watson's going to get his snaps, and then Richie James is going to be involved. So those three right there. So it basically comes down to who do you want on the field? Do you want MVS or do you want Justin Ross? I think most of the kingdom would say Justin Ross right now, even if he doesn't. To Blaine Gabbert's point today in his presser, he said he's still learning the offense and hasn't really played a lot of football. But I'll take the mistakes before I'll take an MVS another drop because I don't think the kingdom can handle another one, fellas.
Where did Agent 11 come from? That's hilarious. Go ahead. Go ahead, DG.
Double Agent 11.
No, yeah, man, that drop had my blood boiling. Like, just because it to me it's coming down to a point where it's not even execution; it's just effort. Like, you can clearly tell the effort, the confidence. It ain't there, and it's something that, like, you're kind of lucky that it hasn't spilled over into the locker. Well, I mean, as far as we know that it hasn't spilled over into the locker room, but like you can clearly see, anytime he touches the field, he's not confident. He hasn't been all season. So why continue to keep putting him on the field? If he's not going to give you any effort, if he's not going to run his routes correctly, do what needs to be done, especially like this is the kind of stuff, if he's a rookie, okay, development time, it'll take time, whatever. Like, you've been in the league what now, 5-6 years? Like, you've been doing this all your life. You know what you're doing, like, at this point in time. So you can't have that on the field, right? And especially as a veteran, like a guy who's supposed to be a leader, I guess you could say, which we all know he's not right now. I'm sorry, like, and there's no knock to MVS personally or anything right now, but he's just not a confident player, and I don't want to see him on the field. If we're gonna do it, if he's gonna be on the field, then maybe in a limited snap capacity, or whatever. But you can't have him playing 50% of the snaps and think you're gonna win with that kind of formula. So
Yeah, I mean, look,
yeah, can't do it.
The question. The problem is that you need him. He's a veteran guy, even though he doesn't act like one, because he doesn't take any accountability. And he's telling guys where to get lined up before the snap. And so, unfortunately, to a certain extent, I understand why he has to be out there, but it's killing us, to say the least, to see it continue to happen. And so, all things considered, I do believe that there is a chance, and we've had some questions about it, specifically about Week 18, what we will expect to see. Obviously, guys are going to be sitting, things of that nature. We'll get into it a little bit. But starting out from overall perspective, to you guys, saying that obviously we're not going to see the full offense. Obviously, Blaine Gabbert will be starting here. So first and foremost, you're not going to see
Mizzou's finest, baby.
Yes, Mizzou's finest. Is this enough going into the playoffs that you've seen from the offense to have a level of confidence that you're comfortable with after this performance going to the playoffs to actually perform against top level defenses?
For me, I would say yes, mainly because I saw at least one game them commit to the run game. Like, obviously, to see Pacheco get 25 plus touches, I love that, fellas. Like, I've been saying that for weeks because if we have to run our offense through him, then so be it. So obviously, I would love to see our offense do more. I think we all would agree with that point. But to at least have that one game where they've done the things that me and DG been saying, just commit to an identity, choose something you're good at, and then just follow through with it. And they did that for 4 quarters. So it wasn't pretty, but at least I got one game under my belt where I saw them commit and win an ugly football game, if that's what you want to call it. So if we went into the playoffs and we had to play, obviously, a Miami, a Buffalo, or the Houston, Indianapolis, whoever we'll go through the scenarios for sure. But if we had to match up one of those teams, knowing we can run the football like that, play great defense, and like we said this for months now, just score 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, a couple field goals can win us a game. So, and we had the second touchdown right there, but number 11 dropped it. So if we can get those 2 touchdowns, I have full confidence in this defense being able to get other teams off the field and them not being able to get into the red zone maybe 3 to 4 times max for other teams, because I really don't see that many teams crossing the 50 on this defense, honestly. So 2 touchdowns, a couple field goals, we can leave with a win.
I'm at a maybe. Maybe. Oh, like, at this point, I know they can do it, but they haven't consistently shown you that they can do it. I know they're capable, but they just decided to some games just go completely away from it, and and try to go back to what they used to be good at. So I would hope that in a playoff situation, I think that there would be no holding back. We all kind of all know that Andy holds some things for the playoffs, and it doesn't reveal everything in the regular season. So I know there's gonna be some kind of new wrinkles, some stuff we probably haven't seen in a while or whatever being called, but um, to me, it's like CJ said, it's about the commitment. If you're committing to the run game and committing to being a more physical team, if they can do that consistently, then yes. But I'm at a maybe just because you got to prove it to me right now. So
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. I mean, you unfortunately saw this team still have a turnover that gave the other offense a short field that they scored a touchdown on with the strip sack. In that situation, I mean, Trey Hendrickson on Wanya Morris on the island, that's a very difficult place to put your rookie left tackle in. And obviously, Trey took advantage and was able to strip the ball. It is what it is. It's just Mahomes was also extra cautious throughout this game. He wasn't necessarily trying to put the ball in harm's way too often. At least to start out, I think that he got a little bit more loose with it as far as trying to fit things into tight throws later on in the game. Um, and so it's the reality situation. This team is just going to have to grind it out on offense. That's the only way for them to win currently, and they're just going to have to continue to move the ball that way accordingly. As far as obviously we talk about moving into next week, people sitting things of that nature. I'm okay with what they're doing. I think that they should sit these guys. I think some of them either need the rest or just need that mental reset. I don't think the upside of seeing them have to put some extra stuff together as far as drives are concerned is going to be worth the risk of a guy getting hurt. That's key because obviously they can't afford to lose anybody. They're barely scraping guy on offense as it is right now. So yeah, it's a real situation. Speaking of, uh, thank you for bringing up Snead. I think that the defensive side of the ball has to start with L'Jarius Snead. There's no doubt about it. Had another excellent game. A lot of drawing, obviously, before the game about nobody being a standout guy in the Chiefs secondary. Not the guy that's continued to shut down number one wide receivers throughout the entirety of the season and did so on Sunday as he held one Mr. Jamar Chase under 50 yards. I believe it was 3 catches on 27 yards on 31
guard,
pass, passing down snaps in which he did guard Jamar Chase. I mean, it's another thing that L'Jarius need to continue to do. And there's been the robbery that people are speaking of as far as him not getting the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is a joke. I mean, it's what it's popular.
it's a flag football game, y'all. I don't know why y'all getting mad at
Yeah,
it.
bro.
It's
Y'all,
flag
y'all
football
do.
now.
The
Bro.
fans vote for the Pro Bowl. Y'all know
They
that, right?
and then they playing dodgeball now, bro. Like,
Nobody care about Pro Bowl, bro. Like Pro Bowl been a joke for years. Ain't nobody worried about that. All Pro over Pro Bowl. All Pro over Pro Bowl. Stop worrying about
And
that.
and Snead will be properly represented on the All Pro. Should be first team. Undoubtedly
Exactly.
should be first team. Because the record speaks for itself. I mean, wait, can we just obviously you assume that they're going to be resting defensive starters. So for the regular season here, L'Jarius Snead at just an excellent season that he's put together here. Talk about L'Jarius Snead, man. Like how excited you've seen the growth of this guy this year.
All Pro, All Pro. I mean, we've been hearing it for years. Me and D-Mac have been in plenty of wars defending his name on these Twitter streets for the last couple of summers. And obviously, a lot of people think he's only a slot corner. He can't play outside. He can't play bump with a lot of number one corners. And he's checked all of those boxes and then some this year. And like we said, fellas, I said this last year, this receiving core or this DB room, and Coach Merritt has seen every receiver you can think of. And this year, resume is no different than it was last year. We've seen Justin Jefferson, we've seen Tyreek Hill, we've seen Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams twice, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen. Am I missing anybody? Like anybody, Cortland Sutton, like any receiver you could think of in this league that this DB room has seen. So for them to go out there and Snead,
right?
Yep, Jettas, yep, like literally everybody. So only receiver they didn't play this year would be like CD Lamb, AJ Brown we saw this year, Devontae Smith. So only one we didn't have in the top 10 this year would be CD Lamb, the only receiver they didn't see. So to have this type of resume and the numbers speak for themselves, and you could watch the tape yourself or watch the numbers, whichever one you prefer. Snead's been a lockdown corner all year, dealing with injuries, not dealing with injuries. He's been consistent, whether we played here, on the road, overseas, it doesn't matter. He's proved to be in a top 3, a top 2 corner, not 2, in my opinion. And I try to say that humbly, and I don't try to be too biased. I know we're telling the truth here, but I think Snead's been arguably the best corner in football this year. I think the numbers in the film speak for themselves. Obviously, he doesn't have the picks, obviously, a lot of people would want, but as good a job as you do is staying in phase and not letting guys beat you over the top. And he went, 500 plus snaps without giving up a touchdown. I don't know what more numbers you need to back up his resume this year. Snead's definitely an all-pro corner, in my opinion. I don't think it's even a close decision, honestly.
Yeah. Dog. All dog. I wish Therese Paylor was alive.
All juice team, baby.
Yeah, because Therese said it best, man. The contract year is undefeated. I don't know what kind of mindset L'Jarius Sneed decided to come to training camp with this year, but it obviously was to be a straight dog this year. To embody it takes a lot of attitude to be out there on the outside and go up against guys and travel with guys and have that mindset to know that, like, these guys are the best in the league and I'm gonna go out here and lock them up. So it's really helped this defense transform into what it is now, into one of the best defenses in the league, when you got a guy that can clearly just shut down his side of the field. You don't have to worry about, and then you add another guy on the other side who can do almost legitimately the same thing. You know, like, yeah, man, that tandem together. Hopefully, Veach makes the right decision and keeps them paired together for a long time to come, because I think that they can do some real special things together. But yeah, what Snead has been able to do has been incredible, man. To come from being a 4th round draft pick, a guy who a lot of people thought, well, is he going to be a safety? Is he going to be a corner? You know, and then he plays nickel for a little bit, and he was excelled at that. Was one of the best blitzing corners in the league last year, and then comes in this year, and now he's one of the best, quarterbacks on the island by himself. People are comparing him to Darrelle Revis on Twitter and stuff like that. Like, it's just been crazy to see his growth, and I think the sky's the limit for him. He's going to obviously continue to keep going. We've obviously had a great track record so far of developing these guys at corner. Travarius Ward is another one who went off to San Francisco, who I feel like is having a great year as well too. So
Little Mooney.
Hopefully the Chiefs can continue to keep doing their things. Hopefully they keep him here and continue to have success with him or whatever. But yeah, L'Jarius Sneed is all dog.
Yeah,
all dog.
And I'm certainly glad that you mentioned, obviously, the contract year being undefeated. Shout out to Russ Baylor. And the reality of the situation is, this is a guy that coming into the season, he was somebody that I kind of expected that he was going to be not. Somebody that was not going to be back in Chiefs Kingdom. I was expecting that he was going to walk at the end of the year. I thought that, given the way that they continue to invest in DBs, the ways in which they choose to put their money into this team, he wouldn't be somebody that we re-signed. But now that he's had such an elite season, that has to be something that's talked about as far as the decision is concerned, because he's been spectacular. Being able to bring that physical nature, being able to shut down top-level wide receivers on a consistent basis, that's a unique skill, a unique talent. That's somebody that warrants the conversation to be talked about between Chris Jones and him, of where your offseason is going to go. And that's something that we're going to talk about here on the channel, coming up as we, kind of after the playoffs are done. So the question mark is going to be whether one of those guys come back, whether both of them come back. Ultimately, though, no doubt about it, L'Jarius Sneed has been an all-pro, a guy that should be first team, to say the least. And it's been a spectacular season to this point. And it's not just been him. Obviously, the entirety of the defense has really shown up. And I think that there was a tweet that kind of summed it up pretty well, that on the last 12 dropbacks that Jake Browning ended up having, he was sacked on 5 of them and had an intentional grounding on a 6th as well. He was under fire there in the second half, and specifically on those last 2 drives when the defense needed to shut the door and allow the field goals for the offense to end up being the difference in the game. the pass rush specifically showed up. They were harassing him. We saw good blitzes from Justin Reed as well. We saw the ability to get after the passer from the front four on a consistent basis, and it made a huge difference. And so as we go into the playoffs, I mean, this team being able to rush the passer is going to be the biggest thing. I mean, I do want to ask the question that since we've gotten it a few times, do you guys think that we should add Frank Clark into this room as far as the pass rush is concerned and bring the shark back in time for a playoff run?
Nostalgia in me wants him back. I mean, from the
Yeah,
first time we saw him, the first time when he got released by Denver, I was like, it wouldn't hurt. Obviously, this D line group has been deep enough to the point we haven't even talked about Felix this year because it's just been so hard for him to get on the field because Charles is balling, Mike Dana's balling, George hit 10.5 sacks. So the D line group has exceeded their expectations this year. So if Frank come back, it would strictly be for depth purposes. It wouldn't be to be an impact player because this group's gotten pressure on the quarterback all year. So we don't need Frank, but it would be cool to see 5-5 back on the sideline for sure. So if they did it, I love it, but we don't need him back for sure.
yeah. I'm like kind of with CJ on it. If they brought him back, for me it'd just be for attitude purposes, just to add some swag to the locker room. You know, he would be well welcomed in that locker room. Everybody loves him here. Of course, the trash talk, the clips, is what we all want to hear and see.
Blow my head back
You
to
know.
Cincinnati.
But as far as the positional depth and anything like it, it's not really a necessity at this point. Um, so I could see them doing it just for the morale of going into the playoffs, bringing their guy back, and kind of just saying like, well, come on this last ride with us to close this thing out or whatever. And it could end up being, if they do sign him a signing that probably could help him in the playoffs because maybe he does come back with a little bit of juice and something that motivates him. I know he would love to be back here. And be back in that locker room with his guys. So, but we'll see. I'm not expecting anything. I know everybody sees the tweets from Chris Jones. I really just feel like he's just tweeting at this point. Yeah, I
Like
know
he always
Chris.
does.
Yeah, I know Chris love to run his Twitter fingers. So, whatever. But if they bring him back, I won't be mad about it. I think it's probably gonna only be on maybe a practice squad spot or whatever, and just to carry him through the playoffs, have him on the sideline for the playoffs, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reality situation is that in years past, you needed that veteran in the room for those motivational purposes, the mentoring purposes, things of that nature, and also because you did need some rotational pass rush up. The reality situation is your young, explosive first round draft pick can't get on the field because your edges are playing well enough to where he's not needed. And that's not to say necessarily that there something could change, but as of right now, if he wants to go on the practice squad, that's cool. But I would not be giving him an active roster spot. I don't think that that's necessary. I would not be trying to find him snaps. There's a reason why he's been a healthy scratch in other places to other teams this year. He just doesn't have a lot left in the tank. And so this team's defense is played at such a high level, specifically from a pass rush perspective, specifically in the edge room. I'm not necessarily trying to upset anything as far as that's concerned. And I think it is no, he cannot catch a football.
I wish.
You sure? You sure?
Then
I bet he can.
Hey,
I
you
don't
might
think
want to. You could try him at running back.
I'm
Maybe.
good. Mm-mm. I'm good. Not after I seen what is left in those lower legs. No, I'm
Yeah.
good. Nah, I'm good. But yeah, so that's my thing. I don't think necessarily that it's a good idea, but if you wanted to bring him back for the practice squad, that's fine. And the secondary part of it is that people are talking about the hype aspect of it and him having the mentality for the team. I mean, I think that you saw it in a few different clips from this season, or not this season, but specifically this team. I mean, this team has the right mentality to go out there and shut guys down. I mean, you got juiced guys like Willie Gay and obviously Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell, obviously former Chiefs champion, now back. Guys that are bringing that level of mentality of trying to make a difference, specifically in times in which you're backed up on the goal line and it feels like you're gonna give up a touchdown and still being able to make a play and force teams to not necessarily be able to get 7 points in that aspect of it. I think the kids are all right. I think this team has all the juice in the world that it needs. I think Chris Jones is taking over for that. That leadership veteran perspective, I think that Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, guys that from the linebacker perspective, have taken over that leadership aspect of it. I don't think that they necessarily need it. I think everybody on all three levels, you see 22 in here sticking his head in and making sure that he gets a piece of the running back there before they can punch in the goal line. Everybody on this team is bringing the same mentality from the defensive perspective. You don't necessarily need Frank Clark to do that right now. As far as Brian Cook, I certainly hope that he's back soon. We haven't necessarily heard about his practice window being opened up, or anything about him necessarily being out of the boot or him being in the boot. So we haven't heard a lot. Hopefully, we will hear about something soon because I think they need Brian Cook back to really get back to the full level of defense that they've been played. They've had a little bit of weakness on the back end. I think that he could help a lot. Speaking of specifically, because we've got some questions rolling about the entirety of next season. From 99, I mean, do you think the Lions game is different if Charles Minihue plays in?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If we have Omenihu for the first part of
him or Chris on the field, that game is different, and we still should have won the game. So
he's had 5.5 sacks already.
5 straight games. Yep.
Yeah,
like
5 straight games. Yep.
If you got a full season of Omenihu at this level, he's a double-digit sack guy.
That Chargers game, he came back, and his impact was felt immediately when he stepped on the field. Right. So that's why he said he came here to play alongside a guy like Chris Jones. And obviously, we know we have a big decision on our hands coming this spring. Like, do we decide to move on from Chris, or we decide to re-sign Snead, or vice versa? It's going to be a big decision because we can see the benefit of either side. I would love to see Snead and Trent stay together, but also Charles Omenihu and Chris Jones for a whole season with a full offseason prepare could be scary as well for a lot of different teams, especially those two guys playing off of each other. So we're kind of like living the best of both worlds right now. Do we want that dominant pass rush tandem, run stopping tandem, or do we want that dominant corner combo? So it's a tough decision to go into this offseason. I think I kind of know which way they're going to lean, but Veach has his hands full for sure, because either one of those things could be the foundation of this team going forward for sure.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned that if he plays a full season, he's probably a double-digit sack guy. I expected him to be a double-digit sack guy because I saw what he was able to do specifically for the 49ers, being able to have that inside-outside versatility and knowing what Chris Jones can bring to the table, and then you add a Minihue being able to win quickly in the ways that he does. And you've seen the sack reduction over the last few games for a reason. The dude has the ability to play very well and disrupt the passer very quickly as well. And it's an important piece for this defense and what they're able to do, especially with a 4-man pass rush. So I've been happy to have it back. And yeah, I think you make a very far argument that this team wins the Detroit game if they just got one of 90 or 95, not necessarily both of them. I don't think we are going to be playing that DG clip.
Take your boy back to Cincinnati.
I love post game DG.
It ain't better than post game D-Mac.
Hey, look, Chris,
y'all didn't see D-Mac last year. Oh boy.
My dad is watching this show right now. We cannot play that clip right now.
We have children watching.
He would be very disappointed in my language.
Oh man. I was on fire after that Raiders game last year. So you're right. You don't want to see.
Hey, D-Mac was funny, bro. That was hilarious. That was so funny. D-Mac was turned.
Oh man. That was something. But yeah, so obviously we go a bit into week 18, and I just want to show this clip because Chris brought up that Pacheco's still running. Shout out to this. I thought this was a beautiful play design, by the way. Just gorgeous. Having a little bit power counter and having Pacheco be able to hit that B gap there. There we go.
Run behind Joe, baby. Follow Joe.
Nice little kick out by Creed.
Trey getting
up to that second.
Jawan too.
Yep, that's Seal on that front side.
Shout out to my tight end who got 2 blocks.
I was about to say they claim that Travis Kelce can't block, but it looks like he's doing a pretty good job there on the defensive end right there. Tooney came out.
And got a little ice cream at the end. Watch this. Boom, get out of here, Cam Taylor. Break with your block.
Yep, and Pacheco's still running. So very nice play design from them. And look, you're going to have to see a lot more of that. They're going to have to get downhill. They're going to have to use those guards to be pulling. They're going to have to use a little bit more of power gap scheme runs because that's the way that they're going to be able to move the ball first and foremost, and they need that to stay on schedule. So shout out to them as far as that's concerned.
Bully ball.
Yeah. If Pacheco had Jamal Speed, then we're talking about a whole lot of different things.
Bro,
He ain't no
bro.
7th-round pick if he got Jamal Speed. I tell you
Nah, yeah,
that.
we wouldn't have got him in the 7th round if
He
he
ain't
was
no
Jamal
7th-rounder
Speed.
if he that fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the closest thing we've seen to Jamal since Jamal went in pick number 12 for a reason. That'll tell you everything you need to know. So yeah, shout out, shout out to them for that run as well. So moving on to week 18, we have obviously the Chiefs going to the Chargers in LA. We will have Blaine Gabbert as the starting quarterback. There are some rumors about who necessarily isn't going to play. We had Chris Jones not practice today. We had Zay Pacheco not practice today. We had as well Rasheed Rice not practice today. On the flip side, we had Kadarius Toney return to practice today, which I thought was kind of interesting. On the flip side, also during the press conference, Blaine Gabbert mentioned that he expects Justin Ross, Kadarius Toney, and Miko Hardman to get the majority of the wide receiver snaps. On one hand, seeing a lot of Justin Ross, seeing a lot of Miko Hardman is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Seeing Kadarius Toney is interesting. I think that means that they put him in the doghouse, which is also interesting. But why would you not also have MBS out there and have him run a bunch of routes and then get 15 targets and see if he can actually catch a ball? In my personal opinion, um, obviously we'll see how long the offensive line, as far as the starters play. Travis Kelsey is close as far as that 16 yards to getting to that 1,000-yard mark for the 8th straight year is going to be intriguing. Um, on the flip side, obviously the question mark is going to be, you know, does Rasheed Rice get any burn? Does Isaiah Pacheco get any burn? Both of those guys are within 60 yards of their 1,000-yard mark. Me personally, I'd say both. That's a little bit too much of a stretch. Kelsey, you can get him a drive or two and get him that 16 yards, hopefully only a drive, in my personal opinion. So that's the way I kind of view it from offensive perspective. Defensive perspective, I said everybody, because I think they just need the rest. They've earned the rest as far as I'm concerned. Quarterbacky, the quarterbacky performance is hilarious. No, just got it backwards. Um, that one was
Nah.
good. I wasn't expecting that one.
Hey, Pop,
So
you
yeah,
need to calm down, relax.
the reason why I've named this specific one, allow me to reintroduce myself, is the question mark of, for you guys, who do you want to see get a majority of snaps, defense or offense? Who are you interested to see, given that this is a game that this team does need to win? Who do you want to see featured? Who do you want to see play? I'll give you guys first crack and I'll go after, because I got a list.
I mean, I have a lot of guys, but the main ones I would want, I guess I'll go offensively first. I would love to see Cole get involved because I know we're going to eventually use his speed in the playoffs. Whether it be like design plays, like jet sweeps, shot plays, deep overs. I want to see him get involved. And obviously, he's been on IR with the thumb injury. So I want to see him get involved as much as possible. Noah Gray will be another one, kind of like what Country's saying on there. Obviously, he's going to have big catches for us. I'd love to see his target share go up. I'm tired of having games where he only gets 2 targets a game, which is still mind boggling to me, as much issues as we have. And he's probably with some of the most secure hands we have on this team. So to see him play a full game, being the tight end one, that would be great to see him get a lot of reps. Obviously, Justin Ross as well. I think there's going to be a moment in this time in the postseason. It may not be a big play. It may not be consistent moments, but there's going to be a moment where his number's called and he's got to make a play for us down the field. And even if it's a back shoulder, a big play in the red zone, whatever the case may be, number 8's going to have to make a play just because his talent is too much to be denied. And even though he's been in and out the lineup, in and off the roster this year with the off the field concerns he's had, thankfully he got that cleared up and he's able to play for us now. But his talent it's too undeniable. Like, you can't have that kid on your roster and not throw him the football in some type of capacity, even if it's a big body slant, a back shoulder, out and up, things where you just use his length, use his athleticism, use his size, because obviously we know MVS isn't going to do it. So I would love to see Justin Ross get snaps. And then on defense, I'll let DG go first and we can come back to defense. But yeah, those will be my offensive players: Noah Gray, Justin Ross, and Miko Hardman for sure.
Yeah, I think offensively, I'm kind of excited to see what Blaine Gabbert can kind of do. I know his last little kind of performance in that Bears game wasn't the most appealing that everybody want to see. Obviously, threw 2 interceptions, so kind of want to see how he kind of bounces back from that. It shows us what he's kind of learned over the years as well. Who I'm really kind of excited to see is the other running backs. Maybe Damn,
Prince.
Demaric Prince, and also
He's bad. And your boy P. Ryan.
yeah, P. Ryan as well too. Would love to see those guys out there, LaMichael P. Ryan, Demaric Prince. See what kind of things they can do with the touches that they get. Also excited to see the young receivers like Justin Ross and Nicole and them get out there and get some game time, get into some game time shape. Um, and I'm actually glad that they're gonna play KT in this game because I do think you need to kind of get him back on the field, establish some confidence within him. I do feel like there may have been an injury that he was dealing with, but I do also feel like there was some mental stuff that they wanted just to scale back from him from and just say, hey, like get ready for the playoffs. We'll need you in that spot or whatever. We know how dynamic you can be. Go get your mind right and things of that nature. So I would love to see KT out there, see what he can do to kind of touches he get. I don't actually think he's gonna play the whole game. I think it will just be spot touches here and there, like how you seen Andy kind of do with him before, and get him into a rhythm. And then I guess after that, man, just would be some of the guys on the line. Maybe could see what Darian Kennard has. Haven't got to really see him play. Nick Allegretti, I know this is a big spot for him to actually get some playing time. When he did come in, I think in that Raiders game, he was one of the guys that kind of showed some effort and some energy that day, and it looked like he really wanted to play. So it'd be exciting to see some of those guys who don't normally get to play to get out there and get some PT against. Obviously, I guess the Chargers are going to play their starters. So
what starters?
Right.
The ones they have left. I'm gonna scroll down to
Yeah,
this so you can look
right.
at the
I said, who
Chargers one.
playing?
It ain't too extensive going on over there either. So I agree with you guys as far as offense is concerned. As CJ started out with my big one, I want to see Miko get a large allotment of snaps for his conditioning, just so we can get up to speed as far as that's concerned. Because I do think realistically, because I don't think it's going to be Justin Ross, though I'm intrigued to see Justin Ross play. Miko is the guy that can actually give you the speed element and the understanding of being in the system and knowing where he needs to be, whether that's the shallow drag routes or whether that's some of the over crossers or just straight up down the field on opposing corners. He has the ability to bring that to the table. He is the guy that can actually take some snaps away from MVS if he can really earn that trust in this manner. Hopefully, we get a good showcase of him being able to do that specifically down the field. Because I think if he's able to do that in that case, then he can actually make an impact in the playoffs. Other guys are kind of showcased. I don't think you're going to see Kadarius Toney play meaningful snaps in the playoffs. I don't think that they want to put him in that position. I think Sky Moore's on ice. Obviously, he's on IR. I don't think he's necessarily coming back. I don't think they want to trust either of these running backs that they're going to end up playing on Sunday. CH may play for a snap or two while the starters theoretically are still out there. I don't think it's going to be a lot. Chris Oluokun, that'd be nice to see him. Obviously, we'll see if he gets elevated to take some snaps away from Blaine Gabbert later on in the game. But yeah, I think that Mecole is the guy as far as offense is concerned that I want to see the most because I want to see him play those snaps and actually get ready. Selfishly, I'd also like to see MVS have to run a bunch of routes and actually try to catch the ball from Blaine Gabbert
I'm
so
all
he can
for
stop
that.
him playing.
He should play the whole damn game.
I would love
whole game.
I would love to see that. They won't do it because they claim that he's a veteran, even though he doesn't act like it is what it is. I'll kick off my defensive list. I'm going to say, obviously, everybody wants to see FAU. I've said it before. I want to see Nick Jones, Iko Boye-Doe, both those guys, DBs that we saw show up in training camp. I want to see some corner snaps from those guys. We'll see if we get a look at Cam Jones, Jack Cochran from a linebacker perspective as well. Yeah, I think as far as those guys are concerned, but the trio as far as the defensive line, FAU, everybody's going to be talking about. Neil Farrell obviously should get his first action from an interior defensive line perspective. But my guy, BJ Thompson, I want to see that speed coming off the edge. I want to see what he's learned from his time under Joe Cullen. Incredibly raw pass rusher, but he has all the length, all the speed tools that you'd like to develop for a guy that can actually give you a little bit of pass rush juice. So that's the guy that I want to see most. I don't think Chris Jones played. I think that they'll end up paying him out that double digit sack thing.
Come
and
on,
just
man.
give it to him.
It's a
And he
half
just
sack away. Get a man his money, dog.
I I I don't think that they jeopardize it from that standpoint. It's not something
Do
where
we
it's like
really want to
Kelsey,
give
where
him money?
Get a man
yeah,
as a center,
Do we
man.
really want to pay him money,
Yeah.
fellas? They're like, and Chris, you can sit down.
you should have showed up week one. But no, I think that I think they will pay out that money as far as that's concerned. But I do think it's different from Kelsey, where it's like Kelsey, this is a streak. It has to be official in the record books where you have to get that 1,000 yards. So they kind of have to do that. Whereas they can just give Chris Jones a bonus. So it's a little bit different from that standpoint. But I don't think Chris Jones plays. I don't think you see a lot of George Karlaftis, if at all. I don't think you see Mike Dana. I don't think you see a lot of Charles Omenihu. Maybe just a little bit of a snap here or there just to keep his conditioning up because he missed some time. Outside of that, I don't think you see a lot of them. I want to see a lot of that pass rush trio, specifically BJ Thompson coming off the edge because he's the guy that I want to see how much he's grown, and I'm excited to get those snaps from.
Yeah. I would say from my side of it, probably be just the younger guys, Nick Jones. But like this, I think Shamari might get a little bit of PT out there just to kind of keep his mind fresh, keep his the reps up for him as well too. Excited to see Jack Conklin again. I think he showed a little bit something in the spot starts that he kind of had to come in and play, and he played decently. Wouldn't say he was off the charts, or anything like that, but did play decently. So I'd like to see what else he has in the tank. Do you think they play Leo a little bit?
Yeah.
I think Leo will get some snaps. Yeah,
So
I
He's
think that
already got
if you I think ideally, because of the way that things have kind of worked out here, I think I would use this as an opportunity to kind of get Leo Mike linebacker snaps if I
yeah,
possibly
Yep,
could.
off
Because
ball,
that's
yeah.
not something that you've been able to give him a shot to do. Because he's obviously been a lot in that Sam position, done a little bit of Will. I'd use him as that actual Mike linebacker for a good amount of snaps. I'm not saying he has to play the full game. I don't think you want to play him the full game, but maybe for the first half, allow Jack and Cam Jones to kind of play off of him. But yeah, I'd like to see Leo Chanel get some like linebacker snaps just to have that versatility and option because this is something that going into the offseason, you're going to have to take under consideration given you have two pending free agents from that standpoint.
Exactly.
I know another guy. They've been carrying Truman Jones on the 53, correct? If I'm not right about that, or is he been a practice squad guy?
I believe it's Cam Jones. Truman Jones was the edge
Okay,
that is
okay,
practice. Now that's
okay,
what I remember, but I may be mixing them two up because I got them wrong all the time during
right.
the training camp, so I got to fix it.
Yeah,
See what it is.
I was trying to see which one because I was like I know you might end up seeing one of them out there playing it on Sunday as well too. And then after that, I guess it would
Cam
just be
Jones is a linebacker.
right.
Cam
It would
Jones is
just
a
be
linebacker.
Neil Farrell and probably see a lot of Mike Pennell as well too. To get Mike, some more snaps. I know he's been kind of spot playing as well too. So, I like to see some good things from those guys, and I just like to see those guys who don't normally get reps and see what they can do. Go out there, have fun, and try to win the game, man. So hopefully they
Look,
go out there.
this is not an impossible task. This is a team that
No.
has backups all over the place. It's easy to
Yeah.
stick. This team is quit on
Scrimmage.
its entire season. It has. So this is a game that can be won by these guys if they want to. And Marcus said the entire week, Mark Jones, that 11-6 looks a lot more aesthetically pleasing than 10-7. So by all means, go out and win this game. There's also a secondary kind of long-term consideration between the reality situation of the Chargers winning this game and actually having worse draft position or losing the game and having better draft position. The reality situation is it's the Chargers. They're going to fuck up the pick regardless, so it doesn't necessarily matter in my opinion. As far as people auditioning for next year, I mean, it's the people that we named, the young guys on this roster, the guys that haven't necessarily solidified a role, and the free agents as well, for that matter, that they're going to have an opportunity to show something. And obviously, we talked about a little bit about these guys, Lucan. Should one of these tight ends necessarily get activated, like Gathings or Bushman? Obviously, we talked about Darren Kennard possibly being brought up from the practice squad. Jason Godric, a guy that's kind of been on there. I don't expect him to be elevated because he's just an international player. This is probably just more of a development year. We saw Keontae Ingram get elevated. To see him get some more running back snaps will be interesting. He's the guy that's actually been on the NFL roster to this point, had some of those snaps. So, could he be the guy that chooses the depth guy as far as the wild card round is concerned? That would be interesting from that standpoint. So there are things, and we'll find out more pretty much on Saturday when we see those elevations and get a little bit more information about where they're going to end up hitting as far as the active roster is concerned. Um, yeah, no, Lee, that would be nice. That would be very nice for that. So along those lines, now that we are looking ahead to the playoffs specifically, we have it, talking about Lamar after getting bounced. Look, the
There is a
Ravens obviously.
scenario.
The Ravens have the week off. Well, no, I shouldn't say have the week off. Well, they do have the week off because they solidified the one seed,
2 weeks.
and they will have the bye week as well. So technically, they will have 2 weeks off and can rest their starters this week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, which rolls into obviously the Week 18 playoff implications that we are going to be dealing with. As far as the Sunday and should say the Saturday and Sunday games are concerned, they're kind of a little bit of a flow chart for the Chiefs, but we'll be able to kind of make it a little bit easy for you guys just to understand which games are important, who you should be rooting for to a certain extent as well, because obviously that is of major interest. It starts out specifically with the game between Buffalo and Miami. That's the major game of the weekend, and specifically for the division. AFC East implications as far as that's concerned. The winner of that game will end up being the winner of the AFC East and the 2 seed. The loser of that game is in danger of either missing the playoffs, being the 6th or 7th seed. And so we'll start there from that perspective. So to begin, if Miami ends up losing that game, Miami will be coming to Kansas City in the first round of the playoffs in the 3-6 matchup.
So we do get Tyreek in Kansas City. After all of that, he does get to come here. Look at how that works.
After all that, you can end up still with Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. Also, unfortunate news. Obviously, we saw that his house did catch on fire today. Fortunately, nobody else was inside. Nobody was hurt. Love to hear that for Tyreek Hill as well. Glad his family is safe. And so that is the reality situation. A Dolphins loss locks Miami into that 6th seed, and they will be coming to Kansas City in the wild card round. However, if the Dolphins win and Buffalo loses, then we can get to some of these early games, because these 2 games in particular are massive on Saturday. If the Steelers win, that means that they lock up a playoff spot as well. And then at that current moment in time, the winner of the Texans and Colts game could be in line to coming to Kansas City for the wild card round. That being dependent upon the Jaguars and Titans game, because this game, if the Jaguars end up winning, that will be for the AFC South. So essentially, the Jaguars winning, Miami winning, would mean that the winner of the Colts and Texans game will be coming to the wild card round for the Chiefs in Kansas City to start out the season. So interesting rooting aspect for that. And of course, if the Steelers end up winning in that same scenario, that means that the Buffalo Bills will be missing the playoffs as well. So there are your flow chart as far as things are concerned. I mean, I could ask you guys pretty simply. I mean, what are you guys rooting for? Because I know what I'm rooting for. But
go ahead, DG.
Man, honestly,
I got some Hulu ads and some progressive ads. I'm not taking pictures of airport bathrooms because I'm a weirdo. No, thank God. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah.
No, funny, bro.
No, funny.
I'm not a freaking weirdo.
I mean, I don't know if I have a preference.
Hey, what Charles O say today?
Yeah,
we'll play anybody.
I'm with Menu, bro. We'll play anybody. It don't matter
play anybody,
who it is.
bro. You feel me?
And we'll play them anywhere, wherever we gotta
go. In
the
parking lot,
right?
It don't matter.
I think this team can beat anybody. I guess if I had to pick, I would say the matchup against Miami would be a lot more intriguing for me. Not that I don't think we couldn't beat Buffalo, because I think we can. But I just think where Miami is right now, especially with some of the injuries that they have, they're just not the same team they were at the beginning of this year. And I think some of those defensive injuries, especially to their edge rushers alone, is going to probably prove to be pivotal for them in these playoffs.
Facts. It's a lot
So,
of losses, man. They lost
yeah,
Jalen Phillips
man,
for the year. Now
they've been,
Chubb, man.
yeah, man. To watch, I don't know if you guys been watching the Hard Knocks
In
episodes on.
season. Yep.
Yeah, man. To watch Chubb go down was tough. I mean,
That's
even
It
as
was
an
tough.
opposing fan, like
that's tough to
that
see.
was tough to watch. Just
Yeah.
because you see a guy who gives his all, plays the game the right way, is a good player. So to see
And
that,
he already got hurt before he even got to Miami, so now he hurt another injury. So
yeah, man.
dang, that sucks.
I think that you could kind of see the players around him and how they felt about him, about a guy going down like that, and that kind of shakes a locker room, you know. So
I'm sorry, DG. That's a great comment, Steezy.
what do you say?
Hey, Thomas, you going crazy in the chat. The chat going crazy. Steezy, that's my dog Thomas. He funny, bro. He going
That's a
crazy
great
about
comment.
Jason Whitlock because he was clicking ads.
You learned about a different type of
Hey.
cookies the other day.
He was
Oh,
on
that's
cookies.
Jason Whitlock,
That's great.
put the pop-up blocker on, brother.
Ad block something, bro.
We know.
Hit the X. Do something.
Your computer is watching.
App not to track. Track. That's what you
Ask
need to press,
app
dog.
not to track. Say that 3 times fast. Ask app
really.
not to track.
Not to track. Please.
Oh god. But no, like I
We'll
agree with
update
DG.
you,
Like I would rather play Miami just from like if it comes out to Miami and Buffalo. Miami is just like we said, they're a wounded dog right now. Waddle and Moser are both dealing with the injuries. Bradley Chubb's out for the year. Jalen Phillips out for the year. Connor Williams, one of their starting linemen's, been out as well. So they just been dealing with injuries all over. And their O line, out of all the ones we would see, they're definitely it's a mismatch for them when it comes to our D line. Our D line would dominate that game. We did that the first time. We didn't even have our full defense out there. So obviously, if we had to come there in Kansas City, we've always talked about the elements being in January. We know how cold it is. Tua talk about low. Obviously, he's played in Buffalo as well, but in Arrowhead with this crowd noise pumped up, I would like that matchup. I think that'd be very fun, especially the way our DBs played against Waddle and Reek, and they held their own and then some. And obviously, they be coming to this game banged up. I love that matchup even more for us. And obviously, like outside of that, the best scenario for this team would obviously, like D-Max said, would be to play Indianapolis or Houston. Obviously, Houston. If we had to rank the teams of the 4 teams that were going to be scenario to play, it would be Indianapolis 1 for me, Houston 2, Miami, and then Buffalo. Those would be like the 4. If I had to rank the 4 of how we want to play them, I was like, we would most likely want to play to least likely. But like Charles Amini, who said in the locker room today, it don't matter who we play. We'll line up against anybody. I'm not really worried about the matchup. I think we can win any of those games. But those would probably be how I would rank the 4 coming to the wild card round for the Chiefs and Arrowhead for sure.
Yeah, Buffalo would be the toughest. Buffalo would be the toughest matchup. Especially on a wild card weekend, especially how well they've been playing and how motivated they've been lately. So, kind of would rather see them have to,
I do have a futures bet. So if Miami does win the division, I'll make like $200. So if they do win, I do make some money. So that'd be nice. I did in the offseason. I thought I was trolling. I didn't think they were actually going to do it, but here we are. So
I think the reality of me personally, I just want to see Buffalo out of the playoffs. I hate them. I don't like them. So I'd like to see Buffalo miss the playoffs. And in that scenario, I'd be cool with either Houston or the Colts. Obviously, the Colts theoretically are a little bit of an easier team. The defense is better, but it's Gardner Minshew. I'd rather face the Colts than CJ Stroud personally. So, my ideal path would be one of those 2 teams. And then you go to Miami, who is wounded, like you guys have said. I think that going to Miami would not necessarily be a huge challenge for us, outside of what it's going to be in general of playing only good teams in the playoffs and this team not needing to make those mistakes that we've seen. But that applies to everybody at this current moment in time. So I think that you play one of those AFC South teams, you go to Miami in the second round, and theoretically your next game would be the AFC Championship game in Baltimore or somewhere else, or in Baltimore or in Arrowhead, because under that scenario, that would be the only way possible. So that would be my ideal. That would be my ideal scenario. That would be my ideal scenario. But outside of that, I don't particularly care. You're gonna have to play a good team at a certain point, and that's the reality of the situation. And also, this team is going to go as it takes itself. Either the team makes those mistakes on offense and puts the defense in the bad situations, and the other team is able to take advantage, or they actually clean up some of those mistakes, continue to move the ball fairly well, and actually convert some of those red zone chances and put up enough points to where their good defense that is going to keep them in games can actually win them a few games as well in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see from a rooting interest standpoint where things land this weekend. I think that we kind of covered our basis as far as guys are concerned. Who's going to play? Who's not going to play? Obviously, what to look out for as far as rooting interest this week is concerned. The last thing I do kind of want to get into with the Jarius need of it all, obviously how well his season has played, and also how well Chris Jones' season has gone for this point, because he's still been one of the best defense tackles in the game, point blank period. Commanding double teams at an incredibly high level continued to be an issue. Winning on a consistent level as well. Have you guys' thoughts changed? Have you guys leaned one way or the other as far as the decision that needs to be made between those two, as far as when your off season has started?
Yeah, for sure. Early on, it was all about keeping Chris, and now it's kind of shifted to now we might have to go back to what I've been saying for a while is Veach's philosophy is not signing guys over 30 and going more younger. So keeping Snead. This is before I knew Snead was gonna have an all pro year or whatever. So I think if you want to kind of still have some money to play with in free agency and keep your finances down, Snead would be your more affordable option to go with. Although losing a guy like Chris Jones would definitely impact this defense in a major way. I do think that you can kind of replicate his production with bringing in maybe some draft picks, guys in free agency. They can kind of do some of the similar things. You may not get the same amount of production out of those guys, but at the same time, you still have that all pro corner on your end that can lock up his side of the field, and you have to worry about that in Spags and still kind of scheme with that. So I love Chris, man. I appreciate everything that he's done being here, and I think he kind of knows the writing is on the wall that this is the last ride for him in the Chiefs uniform. So hopefully he goes out with a bang and rides off into the sunset with a ring. So.
Oh, couldn't say it any better. Obviously, I've been a proponent. I've been Team Chris over Snead the entire year just because it's so hard to find dominant defensive linemen, obviously. And obviously, we've been Teflon and very fortunate enough that we developed DBs very well from Travarius Ward, like DG said, to L'Jarius Snead, obviously Trent McDuffie and Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, and plenty of other DBs that we've had inside our building. We've done a great job of developing them and finding them in the later rounds. So for us, it's been easier for our team and Veach and specifically to find a DB on day 2 or day 3 to develop down the road that could turn into a starter or a rotational guy. But in this situation, I think Snead has played too well. Obviously, in a year where he's played like an all-pro in the top 3 corners where you have to pay him. And I was looking at Spotrac right now for his projected contract. Right now, they have it at 4 years, 47 at about 11 per year, which isn't crazy. Obviously, that'd be a really good deal for a guy like him. And obviously, he's around the same age as some of the other corners who signed around that time, like Marshawn Lattimore and to name some others. But I think he's deserving of his contract. And obviously, if we know this is Chris's last year because he wants a certain number as well. If that's the case, then we knew that, hey, we're going to lose Chris or Snead. We're not going to be able to keep both of them, obviously. One of those guys is going to get tagged, and we're going to use that trade to get the value out of those guys. So I'll ask you, fellas, who do you think would give us most in return? And with that return back, what are your first things you would want to do with those packages? Because I know I want to go get a number 1 receiver. And if that's getting a guy like Terry McLaurin from via trade or moving up in the draft, either one of those scenarios is good with me, whichever one takes the least amount of draft capital, obviously. But which player do you think would offer more compensation if we tag and traded him, L'Jarius Snead or Chris Jones?
I think
Believe me. Go ahead, DJ. I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I think it's Chris. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are gonna see all the accolades, the rings, the multiple sack seasons. Even at he'll be 31 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like even at 31, you can still see he's going to be a very productive player. I mean, we all know Father Time is undefeated. So as you get older, things tend to slow down or whatever. But I still think Chris can play at a very high level. Can probably go to another franchise and kind of help, whatever's going on there. That young locker room, mentor guys, be a leader. So I think you can. I think the compensation you probably gets maybe a second and some picks after that. Maybe add in a fourth or something like that. Or if they wanted to do a deal with Washington, him for Terry straight up, I'd do it. Like that's especially if it's in the off season. If we're able to get a guy like a Terry McLaurin who can come in and be a dynamic weapon for us. Obviously, you kind of want to try to make them overpay a little bit. So maybe kind of getting the pick out of it too would be nice. But yeah, man, I think that's about where you're looking at as far as the market for him or whatever. Absolutely. So, but I definitely think Chris brings in a lot more compensation than Snead will probably at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, like what I was going to say really quickly is that believe me, you do not want to see Chris Jones lined up to Quentin Williams. That would be a very destructive thing to see on a consistent basis. So don't send him to the Jets. I think that an interesting thing about the Pro Bowl voting that you saw today, because it's only 1/3 about the fan vote, and obviously that has a certain aspect to it, but the fact that Snead didn't make it on there is interesting. That's something that maybe indicates that he's a little bit more underrated to the rest of the NFL. Or maybe they just don't believe him in the same way that we do as far as Chiefs getting is concerned. So there's a possibility in which you can sign both of these guys back. There really is a possibility. I think that it would take a little bit of maneuvering as far as other guys that need to be cut as a result. We can talk about it a little bit as well. Ultimately, though, to answer your question along those same lines, it's obvious Chris Jones is going to be the guy that would net you more of that draft capital to be able to come back and use. I don't think you can trade him to the Commanders from the standpoint of those guys already have a lot of defense tackles. They may be trying to get rid of Jonathan Allen already on top of that, so I don't think that would be the option. But I think from a draft capital perspective, he would be the guy that would net you the most value in a tag and trade scenario. And I think that if you wanted to go into this offseason, pay L'Jarius Sneed a reasonable contract, it's probably not going to be as low as $11 million a year. If it's 15, I'm cool with it. Pay him $15 million a year over 4 years, and then say that you're tagging Chris Jones and then operating from that aspect of trying to get something done with Chris Jones quickly. Because if it doesn't, then you need to trade him. We're not doing this dance again. We can't do it. Can't do it again. So you have to make that decision quickly. But that would be the area that you would operate from. Extending L'Jarius Sneed, and then either trying to retain Chris Jones on the tag or trade him accordingly for that draft. And you talked about it, CJ, how I'm using that draft capital. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be straight up for a number one wide receiver. Obviously, I like Terry. I think that Amari Cooper could be had, not necessarily for an elite pick or anything, but something based on him being a cap casualty ultimately. So however the avenue is, whether it's a trade up for a guy that you feel like you can use that extra draft pick up to go and get a guy in the draft that you feel good about, and as far as in the 20s or any teens as far as the wide receiver class is concerned, because obviously it's a great wide receiver class. It'll be interesting to see what exactly they choose to do from that standpoint. But Chris Jones would be the guy that would net you the most value, and that's the kind of starting point for this offseason and where you want to move forward at.
No, basically, that's what you have to do right now. This is the time of that fork in the road in every franchise, specifically this franchise, when you start winning and guys have to leave. So we've dealt with seeing a lot of our favorite players in different uniforms. Jamal Charles, seeing him in the orange and blue was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. I had to see Derrick Johnson wear a Raiders uniform. That made me throw up. Neil Smith had to wear a Broncos uniform as well.
Broncos uniform, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of guys leave. Brandon Flowers had to leave as well. We've seen a lot of Chiefs greats, legends, have to wear other uniforms. As long as it's not an AFC West team, I'll be perfectly fine, like DG's Pop said. Obviously, I would love to live in that world, D-Mac, where they both could come back, but I think the writing's kind of on the wall. Like Chris, I think him and his representation have a number in their head. It's probably something around close to 30. And I'm not mad at him because there is a team that's willing to give him that number. And I wish he would stay here and take a lesser number. But like you said, I think he's kind of exhausted everything he's done here. He's won multiple Super Bowls. He's had a chance to win 3, been an All-Pro multiple times. And been arguably the best D lineman in football the last couple of years, in my opinion. So if this the last ride for 9-5, man, it's been a hell of a year, man. I got nothing but respect and love for him, and see him on the other side when we get to retire his jersey and put his number in the Raptors. We know that day is going to come eventually. He's an all-time great for us. But if this is what it takes for us to get the number one receiver, then so be it. Like, if this is the era and the transition. So
Yeah, that's a reality of the situation. I mean, you're talking about being in a situation in which these guys are aging out. I think you're coming to the end of that era. Obviously, you traded away Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey on the offensive side of the ball. We've seen a bit of a decline this year. I think a lot of that's been accelerated because of A, the injury right before the season, but B, and more importantly, because of the lack of wide receiver talent around him. Obviously, Chris Jones still playing at an incredibly high level. I wouldn't even say that he's necessarily on decline, but still getting up there in age. It's the end of a quote unquote era, a phase in which this team is still going to be led by Patrick Mahomes and I believe Andy Reid for years to come as well. But it's the reality of trying to move on from this aspect of what this team was and replacing those guys that have been pillars of your team on both sides. The passing game offense has been run through Travis Kelsey for the entirety of his stint here. This defense has been built around Chris Jones and the pressure he creates. And that's not to say that necessarily both of those guys are going to be gone at the end of this year, but it does mean that you have to prepare for that reality. And so, if any way that you can accelerate your ability to get that done, then that's the most important thing as well. I think, as far as Chris Jones is concerned, though, I mean, yeah, people have obviously named the Bears, Panthers, etc. It's going to be one of these teams that really needs some interior defensive line help that could use an alpha level pass rusher that could change the game. And obviously, the Bears are going to have plenty of picks that make sense as a target. They've been willing to trade picks in the past necessarily to improve their team. Their defense might have improved so much so that they're not necessarily going to be a target for Chris Jones. But there are the teams around the league that will be. So it will be interesting to see what exactly comes out of it. And there's also the possibility of, hey, Chris Jones, go out there and see what teams kind of want to offer you. And if you don't hear back, then let's come back to the table where we talk about this. So that's a reality situation. It's going to be a fascinating branch point for this team going into the offseason. I cannot wait to see what ends up happening, but we still have a playoff run to enjoy, to see what the Chiefs can put together, and obviously one last regular season game as a showcase as well. So once again, shout out to the Chiefs, 8 straight division titles, being able to lock up another playoff berth as well, being locked into the 3 seed in the AFC, as some other team season has ended. And unfortunate that they will once again be ringless once again. And, you know, they just got to have to deal with that reality as well. So to wrap up, man, anything else we want to say before we get on out of here, DG or CJ?
Man, it was rather glorious to be the team that sent the Bungles home to Cancun, to enjoy the off season. And then it was also rather glorious to put the rest of the division 6 feet deep. So glad we got the opportunity to do that for the 8th straight time. Very proud of what the Chiefs been able to do over this last decade. And hopefully the success continues and we keep going, man. Hopefully we can go get a 3rd ring, man. It'd be beautiful.
I know it's been a down year for the Chiefs offense overall, but it's crazy enough to say we still had obviously Pat Mahomes throw for 4,000 plus yards and obviously one of his worst seasons of his career. We still have 1,000-yard tight end and Travis Kelsey was 16 yards away. Isaiah Pacheco could have been 1,000-yard back. He's only 60 yards, and then Rasheed could be 1,000-yard receiver. He's only 60 yards away. So it's crazy that this offense has played this year. They still had guys that could go out there and have great seasons, and obviously the offense didn't compete or obviously do the things we wanted to see them do. But to still have those numbers in this type of offense just shows you how the consistency and obviously, and I think like what Rasheed did this year and deserves more credit, deserves more flowers. I don't think people realize playing 12 football games in college, now you're jumping up to 17. That's a big jump. That's a whole nother month of football. And for him to start the season off the way he did, gradually getting better and hitting his stride and ending the season very strong. And obviously, like we said, if he would have got the target he's getting now throughout the season, he would have cleared 1,000 yards easy. And we're not even, and maybe he would have been in sneaky rookie of the year conversations, obviously with guys like Puka Nacua and CJ Stroud. So I think Rasheed Rice is having an underrated year. I'm excited to see what he does going forward in this offense. But I think, like DG said, Chiefs Kingdom, please, please, please don't take these moments for granted. We know what it felt like 5, 6, just 7 years ago when we knew we were going home in the first round because Alex Smith was a great quarterback, but he couldn't win the big game for us. Now, even with this team not looking like the Chiefs of old, like most people would say, we still have a chance to win just because you have number 15 back there. We have a chance to do some historic things. If we have another 10-win season next year, win the division again, make the playoffs, we're already top 2 and top 3, and obviously those consistencies of winning your division, winning 10 plus games, and making the playoffs. We're number 2 all time, number 3 all time in those two things. So we've had a lot of history made over the last 5 years. Most wins in the NFL history in a 5-year span. 3 Super Bowls appearances, 2 wins, 8 straight division titles, 5 straight AFC championships. I repeat, 5 straight at the crib. With another sneaky chance, maybe we can make it 6 this year. Who knows? If some things bounce our way, you need a little luck. But hey, that's what you got to do to get to this point. So we've done a lot of winning, man. I know people don't like to reflect and we like to stay in the moment, which is very true. But it's okay to just for a moment, just look back and look what we've done over the last 6 to 8 years. We've done a lot of winning, bro. We've done a lot. So just appreciate what you've done. And obviously we got more to do, but be grateful for what we have because we remember the dark times just as much as the good ones for sure.
Absolutely. And look, I don't think this team is done winning. You mentioned looking like the old Chiefs, and I just wanted to show this clip real quick because I thought it was awesome. We got a little bit of that swagger back, man.
Yeah, man.
Really
They finally was having fun last week, man.
Turn
It's
on the
nice to
swag
see.
surf.
Willie Gay turned us up there with the swag surf, man. Had to put it up there. Showed them off a little dancing in between time. You know when the Chiefs dancing in between that they having a good time, man. You love to see that. You love to see them be able to do that. But yeah, so yeah, the swagger is back a little bit. And this time it's really led by the defense, as they continue to do. And as we've talked a lot of Chris Jones, man, we'll leave him with that message that we had walking off the field.
They
As well.
counted us out, told us we were done for. Another AFC West championship in the books. To be continued. And Jamar Chase, try again. They counted us out.
Clank. Guard.
Take y'all bum ass back to Cincinnati.
Guard.
We out here.
Guard.
I told him one come holler at me.
Yo,
I don't know what he did.
He was like, no, let me out.
Hey,
me out.
I wish you the best of luck. Try again next year, man. Another one in the books. For Tell the Truth, DG, CJ, I'm D-Mac, man. Peace out, y'all.
Cheers.
Jeez.